Hello and welcome back. Eddie Radosevich, George Stoya, Josh McCuistion back for another Game Day Rewind. It is a Monday. Oklahoma heads into the bye week, 4-1. No surprise, right? They had that thing the entire way.
They had him all the way. That's what my dad said. He called me, said, "We had him all the way."
I don't know about that, Mr. Stoya, but what a win it was over the weekend, 27-21 at Auburn, Oklahoma. Improbable victory. I think I watched back the instant reaction. It was like, I think we were like in shock a little bit with just everything that had unfolded in the fourth quarter. Josh, welcome in. Happy Monday to you. Real quick, couple of announcements before we get into the Game Day Rewind. We'll go over everything in the Auburn game today, obviously. Tuesday, we'll hit the recruiting report. Josh Witten saw Kevin Sperry, the 2025 Oklahoma quarterback, commit over the weekend, as well as a host of friends down at Denton Guyer, Zane Rowe, 2027 commit as well. So we'll get that on Tuesday. Everything a little bit weird this week. We'll be talking to some of the players on Wednesday. Bye week, obviously. Everything moves into what is going to be another massive OU Texas coming up in 2 weeks. But really good time to join SoonerScoop.com. Plenty of content to come out this week. All you got to do for that is go to SoonerScoop.com. Use the promo code as you see there on the bottom, OU1 for 2 months, $1. Pretty special offer, pretty special time right now as we ramp things up for one of the magical weekends on the Oklahoma football schedule in OU Texas. Texas number 2 in the country, obviously coming off of a win this past weekend. Who'd they even play?
Mississippi
State. Completely forgot about it. They're on the bye week as well this week, and that's where we're at. Josh, unbelievable game on Saturday down in Auburn. You talk about improbable victories, and I think that's the definition of one, trailing by 11 in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, that was one where I was sitting in my office watching it, and the girls had a birthday party they were getting ready to go to, and Tiffany's kind of moving around the house, and all she hears me is just holy, and I'm cussing as the Kip Lewis play happens, like. And I had told her, I was like, they're going to lose this game. Like, I mean, I was there with George. I know George got burned on Twitter, but I felt the same way. Like, that game seemed over. Even after the Javonte Barnes touchdown, it was just like, that's okay, that's nice. But guys, I thought that was about 4 weeks of Oklahoma's defense just getting leaned on and leaned on and leaned on. And finally, I thought they broke a little bit there. Not that they played poorly, anything like that, but that was the first time we'd seen anybody run the ball on them with any real success. And you're watching, just a lot happening. And it's just like, man, this is the rubber's just meeting the road here. You just can't lean on these guys this hard for this long. And what do you know? The guy who never seems to run out of energy, Kip Lewis, finds a way to make a play.
Incredible performance for Kip Lewis. On Monday, he is named the Defensive Player of the Week in the Southeastern Conference, and rightfully so. Comes up with the Kip 6, which I think is a phenomenal name. Whoever came up with that on the social medias or the Twitter sphere, well done. Kip Lewis, though, your SEC Defensive Player of the Week. And, obviously we're going to look at the pick 6 as the biggest play of the game, maybe the biggest play of the season to date. He was phenomenal throughout the game. And Josh, you said it right. His intensity, explosiveness, everything that comes with Kip Lewis's game.
Look at him in that clip.
Unbelievable.
I mean, the dude is, and you could see it in pregame warmups, Eddie. I know you were down there, but I like to watch who's kind of the guy that's being real vocal when they do kind of their stretches right there in the middle of the field. And man, he was a team captain today. He was the one, I think, leading the Sooner Jacks is what they call it in pregame. And, I mean, the dude is just a monster. And to have that play in that moment, Teddy Lehman said it best. And you and I were there, Eddie, and you could kind of feel it. It felt like all game Auburn was doing such a great job of avoiding the big mistake. And that was the narrative for them coming into this. But once they had that one possession where they missed the 51-yard field goal, they're throwing the ball for some weird reason, and then OU goes down and scores, you could feel it, and Teddy said it on the broadcast, they manifested that pick 6. Like that crowd, you could feel it on the Auburn sideline, and OU too. I mean, OU certainly never gave up, but like you could tell it was like Auburn, they were waiting for that to happen, for Peyton Thorne to make that big mistake.
Josh, it was obviously an incredible defensive performance. Just real quick, I think you said it too. It looked like a defense that had gone through the last 4 weeks of basically being leaned on and coming up with the big stop when they needed it. It wasn't the best defensive performance overall, but they made the big play when you needed to. And then post Kip 6, that defense was a different form. It's like they found a different level that they could get to. And that's when you unleashed our Mason Thomas and everybody else. That was an incredible way to close out the game.
Yeah, and I thought it was really because Oklahoma then and later in the game was able to. They kind of obviously they knew what Auburn had to do. They knew what the situation was, and I thought they managed that really well. Once and it seemed like after that pick six, Peyton Thorne was not the same guy again. Like he looked like, oh no, here we go again. I've done it again, kind of thing. And he just looked rattled from that point forward. And again, I think Oklahoma did a great job. And I think you have to give Auburn a lot of credit for the first 3 quarters. I thought Gus Malzahn did a great job keeping OU off balance defensively. They never let them get comfortable. They kind of just kept like one of the plays that sticks out to me when I say that is the little 3rd and 9 when they run Jarquez Hunter up the middle, and it just caught OU completely off guard. Everybody's bailing out in man coverage. Billy Bowman almost finds a way to make it a short stop, but again, I thought that was more to do with I thought Auburn had a really good game plan, really executed well. And guys, Peyton Thorne made some big-time throws. About midway through the 3rd quarter, I thought, man, we've seen this before against Oklahoma where a guy that is a very mid player just finds the number on that day against Oklahoma because there were some busted coverages. And I know Brent talked at halftime and even after the game about too much cushion and those kind of things. But there were some good plays just being made by Auburn at various points.
Josh, do you have some news to share with us?
Yeah.
Me?
Is Gus Malzahn coaching at Auburn again?
You pulled a Kerry Murdoch.
Oh, no.
You pulled a Kerry Murdoch
I do that.
There.
Oh, that is, and I can honestly say this is one of Hugh Freeze and Gus Malzahn. I flip them in my brain all the time, and I don't know why. Like, it's just something about them, and now them both being connected to Auburn makes it so much worse.
It's funny because before the show, Eddie said
I said Blake Roberts
instead of Jake Roberts. So I just work with a bunch of idiots.
Yeah,
that's what we've learned today.
You know what you signed up for,
valid.
right? You know what you signed up for. Defensively, though, they did play tremendously. I thought, there's a couple of those plays, and Kip Lewis had a couple of them. We talked about it after the game on the instant reaction, I believe. We talked about it just a minute ago in the lobby. In terms of that play that led up to, or the plays that led up to the pick six, Samuel Mosigo, if he doesn't make the tackle for loss, they're in 3rd and short there and probably not having to throw on 3rd and 4 with 4:03 left. Like, you kind of forget because of all the heroics that happened post pick six, they were on their heels. Auburn had that game basically maybe 1 or 2 first downs away from being put away.
Yeah, it's crazy. And, Josh nailed it. Auburn had a great offensive game plan. Like, they kept OU off balance. Like, they didn't know what to expect. They had some 3rd down calls where OU had them in 3rd and long.
Sure.
And they would run a draw or a screen and pick it up. And we hadn't seen that. And I think that, again, it's one of those things that I think that OU kind of sold out against Tennessee, right, defensively. And you could tell they were getting tired. And in that game, I think Auburn ended up running 25 or so more plays than Oklahoma did. 11 more minutes in time of possession. I mean, they controlled the pace of the game. And credit to Oklahoma's defense for sticking in there and making some plays. Obviously, the big plays late, but they got some key stops, gave OU a chance offensively. But Josh, I did want to ask you before we move over to offense. I know we'll get to Michael Hawkins here in a second. Are you concerned at all about Oklahoma's secondary giving up a couple big plays? I know that happens every once in a while, but this is 2 weeks in a row now that they've busted on a couple big plays deep.
I think it's a valid concern, guys, because it's not like Oklahoma is constantly leaving their guys out there in man situations. We know they like to mix up a lot of what they do. But the fact that teams keep catching them in bad moments, and the one against Tennessee, I think Dante Thornton is a mutant. I mean, he's 6'6", 220 and can fly. Like, he's going to make a lot of guys look bad on that post route. That's just the way that goes. Sometimes you're just going to get caught out. Now, what I will say is I think you're starting to understand why we're seeing more and more of Eli Bowen. Like I think Bowen is one of those guys that can run with some of these routes. He's not going to suddenly have problems. As much as I like Kanai Walker's not a big time speed guy. He's not going to turn and run with everybody, and I think that's going to be the problem. Now, you're talking about goal line situations or, a number of other things. Kanai Walker, I think, is a very good corner for Oklahoma. He just has limitations when he gets put on the island, and I think you're seeing offenses do more and more to attack him. The other I would say is I thought there were moments in the game where it was clear Auburn knew number 5 was on the field and went at him a couple times. Like I thought there was a series of plays where they threw at him once and they ran speed option at Woody Washington 2 times. In 3 consecutive plays, they went right at him. And I just what you're going to do to navigate that, maybe you move Woody back and play a little safety. Peyton Bowen plays more of that cheetah role, which I think he's a little more suited to than Woody is. I don't know because I know they want Woody out there and all his experience on the field, so I understand. But maybe that's a way you can get both those guys on the field and maybe put them in roles that suit them a little better.
It's going to be interesting because that cheetah spot, Josh is right. They went after Woody a few times when he was in there, especially playing that cheetah spot. And, Sammy Omosigo, as good as he is, he's not as good in coverage, right? You love to bring him in different packages and things, but you like Woody in coverage in a lot of ways, but teams are able to scheme guys open. So losing Kendall Dolby, obviously a huge blow. So I'm interested to see, like Josh said, do you move Woody maybe back out to corner? Do you move him to safety? Do you move Peyton Bowen up, who I thought had a pretty good game? You could play him up there. I even think Billy Bowman could play there if you really wanted to, though he's playing really, really good at safety right now. So I don't know if you want to move him, but you have some options. But that is one position on defense I'm curious to see. I do think we're going to see more and more Eli Bowen. I think he ended up playing 20-some snaps this last week, the most he's played in his career. I think that's going to continue to go up.
For a freshman, I think it was the second quarter he made a play, shucked a tackle, made an open field tackle, just kind of out on the boundary against Auburn's sideline. And for a freshman to be able to do that and the physicality that he was able to do that, and, somewhat undersized, very, very good for Eli Bowen. We'll see more and more of him. Josh, the defensive ends, R. Mason Thomas obviously was excellent at the end of the game with the pair of sacks on the back-to-back plays. But for me, it was kind of the other guys as well. Caden Woolard probably had his best game in a Sooner uniform. Ethan Downs continues to be the hallmark of consistency and just what you're going to get down in and down out. And Trace Ford continues to somewhat quietly, have an excellent senior season for Oklahoma.
Yeah, of the 3 that you're talking about, obviously we can all talk about R. Mason Thomas and how great he is in the fourth quarters. I don't know what that switch is for him, but if Oklahoma could find a way to unlock that all the time, that would be incredible news. But I thought Caden Woolard really, and again, you've got to finish the plays, but he had 2 or 3 times where he had Peyton Thorne just about dead to rights and just can't quite come up to play, but he's forced him to move around the pocket. I mean, anytime you're getting your quarterback off platform, okay, great. Like that's ideal, but you want to go ahead and finish the play, and Peyton Thorne was able to evade him a couple of times. But yeah, this play is the one that nobody's talking about with R. Mason Thomas, where he shucks the tackle and then has the speed to track down Sam Jackson, who is a really good athlete for Auburn. This is a guy that's played a lot of football, played at TCU, played at Cal. And look, he fights off that big old tackle, just gives him that long arm, and then
maybe gets away with
normal.
One. Maybe
I don't know, man. I think he gets a handful of jersey there. I don't think that's a horse collar, but he also Jackson got a handful of R. Mason's face mask on this play too. But I mean, R. Mason's just been phenomenal. Yeah. I mean, he's playing himself into getting drafted.
Is the fourth quarter thing to you, Josh, is that more than anything him just being able to put his ears back and know that it's in a predictable passing situation and maybe one of the best just edge rushers in the country when he can just say, okay, I'm going to go get the quarterback because I know they're throwing the football?
Yeah, and I am just getting started in the fourth quarter as I go through the idiot as we're recording this, and I'm dying to watch it, but and I can't remember which order it is. but I think it was the first sack where he literally is just shot out of a gun and flies underneath the tackle, who is a big, heavy guy that I'm sure had been leaning on R. Mason all the whole game. And then, the tables had turned, and all of a sudden it's R. Mason's game where it's a speed game and they're playing in space. And guys, I mean, I made a prediction in the preseason, in my Fearless 20 that nobody was getting 10 sacks this year. I'm not feeling great about that right now. Like that. I mean, now, obviously, OU fans are very much hoping I'm wrong. I kind of think I'm going to be, because R. Mason Thomas is getting more and more consistent in the way he's impacting the game. Like, I know everybody loves to talk about the Tulane one. He really hadn't done a lot prior to that fourth quarter. And then this one, like, I noticed him. I thought he popped up a few times. I thought against Tennessee he had a few moments, even though that game plan was not at all tailored to his skill set. I mean, they were doing what was best to stop Tennessee, but a 3-down front is not where R. Mason's going to, as George is talking about, that's not where he's going to make a living and catch people's attention in the NFL. So, again, I like what they're doing. We finally saw a little more of PJ Adebawore at times. I thought he had some decent moments. I'd like to see that more, just because I feel like if R. Mason Thomas isn't getting pressure, no one really is at the moment.
R. Mason has 5.5 sacks this season. I believe that's 4th in the country. OU as a team has 18, which is tied for 2nd in the country this year.
What was the stat that we talked about yesterday on the drive back?
2023, they had 24 total sacks. 2022, they had 28. So OU on pace to have a monster year in that total.
They've certainly been getting after the quarterback. Josh, just in the rewatch and maybe some of the stuff that has come up in the Monday Morning Idiot, is Danny okay? Danny Stutzman, he wore the cowboy collar on Saturday, which I thought was noticeable just because he hadn't done it throughout the season. I did notice that Danny Okoye was also wearing one, so maybe
he's
that's
been
just
wearing
something.
one all year.
He's okay. Yeah. That was one of my questions. He had a couple missed tackles that is uncharacteristic for Danny Stutzman. Obviously, the linebacker corps played well on Saturday. Not saying that they didn't. Kobe McKenzie played well. Obviously, Kip Lewis with the SEC Player of the Week. Just kind of what you think about the linebacker corps, and I think it goes without saying for every position group with Oklahoma, the bye week couldn't have come at a better time.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think if you had asked Brent Venables when the moment was, maybe it's last week, but like, this is the perfect moment. Oh no, have I said something terrible?
No, we were talking off camera.
Okay, I saw the laughter and I was a bit concerned, but I was like, no, Brent Venables is still the head coach at Oklahoma, so feel good about that comment. But
Gene Chizik's back at Auburn, though.
So I didn't think, like, I heard you guys talk about it on the post game, and then I heard Gabe and Teddy kind of mention the same, like maybe he's just not quite there. He missed a couple tackles, but I didn't see anything. Like, I didn't see like his movement. I was trying to watch his arm and like look like his arm was, it wasn't ever hanging or didn't look like there was something wrong with it. So I didn't see anything. The only guy all game that I saw, like, oh man, talk about a guy they don't need to go down. Billy Bowman came up from one of his collisions with Jarquez Hunter, and you could see him kind of working that shoulder, and you're like, this has to stop at some point. Oklahoma's bad luck has got to come to a completion. But again, I thought Danny played okay. I think there is sometimes reluctance to be like, Jarquez Hunter is just a really physical ass running back. Like he was more than willing to mix it up with everybody. I mean, he went head to head with Jennings, just down the list. And there's another safety I want to talk about. We'll get into that in a little bit, or I'll find some way to work it in. But I didn't have a huge problem with what Danny did. I feel like he's under such a microscope sometimes that, like, if he misses a tackle, we're like, well, he had an off day, and it's going to happen sometimes.
What'd you want to say before we close out everything with the defense?
The guy I wanted to note, and I don't know, again, how much you guys, I know you got in late last night, have had a chance to go watch Michael Boganowski when he gets in. He murders an Auburn starting right tackle. They run outside. They're running behind the tackle. The tackle's thinking like, oh, I got this safety. And if you could tell him, like, it's a little freshman safety from Kansas, like, don't worry about him. I mean, he flattens him. Like, it's unbelievable to watch. And then comes in on the next play, and Stutzman and Lewis have kind of doubled to take down, I think, Alston or Hunter, one of the Auburn running backs. And as the kid's going down, Boganowski comes in and just cleans up whatever's left. Like that kid is like, I should have went down a half a second before and I would have saved myself a lot of pain. Boganowski's, again, like I thought it was interesting. He got those kind of reps. And obviously we know what Oklahoma thinks of their first three safeties and Bo and Robert Spears-Jennings and Billy Bowman. But that's the kind of stuff where you're like, you're going to find a way to get a dude like that on the field.
That's why, I mean, hey, I want more Michael Boganowski, and maybe if you move Peyton Bowen up to play some cheetah, maybe there's some more playing time for a guy like Boganowski. I don't know, but every time he's in there, he's just hitting the hell out of somebody.
Will be interesting what Oklahoma does defensively. Obviously, going into the Texas game, they got 2 weeks to prepare. A lot of self-scouting, it sounds like, this week with Oklahoma defensively, and if nothing else, just having a week off, I think, is certainly going to help everybody as much as it will the offensive side of the things. As we move forward to the offense and Michael Hawkins' career first start, I was going to say debut. It wasn't his debut. It was his first start. Historical references there. Before we get there, let's tell you about homefieldapparel.com. And all you got to do is go to homefieldapparel.com. 15% off your first order using the promo code SCOOP. I know that, George, you've gotten some stuff in the mail already. I think that my package has come to Ed and Karen's house. I need to go pick my stuff up from them as well. But plenty of stuff to get to. We had a lot of fun with them here in Norman for the Tulane weekend with the pop-up that they had sold. Basically everything that they brought, they sold out of before the game on that Saturday. But all you got to do is go to homefieldapparel.com and use the promo code SCOOP, 15% off your first order using the promo code as you see on the screen.
Yeah.
We love them.
I mean, the stuff that I got.
I can't wait to get the stuff that I got a nice little Yale sweatshirt, which is
that'll be
cool.
Great for you.
People are going to think that I went to Yale.
I don't think anybody's going to think that, but
possibly.
I think you're safe here.
Yeah.
Well, let's just see.
It'll look good on you.
I'm looking for some Memphis State gear is what I'm kind of excited about. That's going to be one of my purchases.
Memphis State?
Oh yeah, before it lost the state, the Penny Hardaway days that I know you two are too young to remember, but was a real pinnacle point in my life.
We spent some time in Memphis.
I believe my aunt went to Memphis State, or as we now know it, Memphis University. Yeah, the city of Memphis. I'll say this, not so much. And I think it rains every time that we drive through.
Oh my gosh!
It just constantly rains in Memphis.
Just gloomy. It's
basically
city.
Seattle.
Yes, it's no fun.
And an interesting
I'll have no disparaging remarks of Seattle. That's a wonderful city.
Well, I cheer for the Thunder.
I like Seattle. Seattle's cool.
That's 2 against 1. That I've never been. I've heard it's awesome. My parents went there last summer. Not so much at the cookout that we went to in Memphis, by the way. We went to one on Saturday night after the game, and it's great in Auburn. Unbelievable experience. Not so much yesterday.
Yeah, no, bad experience.
It was like walking into the movie The Deliverance. It was interesting to say the least. Check out homefieldapparel.com. Michael Hawkins and the Oklahoma offense, I guess, did just enough. Obviously, that whole entire game flips in the fourth quarter when he connects with J.J. Hester for the 60-yard reception. 60 and 63. 63-yard pick six.
Yep.
60-yard reception to J.J. Hester. Obviously, the biggest play of the game at that point changed everything. Let's go all the way back to the first quarter, though, and just overall, what did you make of Michael Hawkins making his first start on the road, Josh?
I thought it was a lot of what we expected, guys. I thought it was a lot of what we thought they needed to do. And as I go through the idiot and I'm talking about him, like it feels negative, like, oh, this play didn't get made, this didn't happen. It felt very much like Oklahoma just kind of said, and Kerry, this is just mean. This is a brutal hit.
Look at his
the Riddick kid for Auburn. That kid's a football player, man. I liked him a lot.
I don't think anybody will ever question Michael Hawkins' toughness. Toughness and the composure in which he was able to just run the offense. I was somewhat shocked how smooth he was able to get up to the line, make checks. He looked like somebody that had been in that moment before, Josh, even though we all know he had not.
Yeah, I mean, guys, and you're obviously much better attuned to talk about this than I am, but it seemed incredibly loud. Like it seemed like they were Auburn. Auburn's fans knew they were facing a young quarterback, knew they could impact the game. And I thought from beginning to end, his calm, his demeanor was good. Like, I didn't see him where I was like, oh, he looks a little rattled right now. Like, he might have not played as, obviously he didn't play as well as he would have wanted to or whatever. But I thought he did. My guess, when he rolls out, Oklahoma's like, look, don't put us in bad spots. Avoid the big turnovers. Basically all the reasons that Jackson Arnold had to be pulled against Tennessee. Don't do that. And play your game, go through a couple reads, and if it's not there, hey, we're breaking up field and we're going to, we want you to try and pick up what you can with your feet. I thought if that was the game plan, if that was the overall outline for what they told him, he executed that perfectly. He did exactly what they asked him to. Now, when I go back and watch, there were some plays, a perfect example, and the reason it's fresh in my mind, I just went over it in the idiot. The pass interference to Brennan Thompson in the corner, he badly misses Javonte Barnes wide open down the seam. I mean, Javonte Barnes, he won't get an easier throw than that in his career. And what happens is J.J. Hester comes in motion. He's riding out the play fake, and he takes it too far. And when he does, he lets the defensive end into his face. He's got to break out left, and he just never sees Javonte Barnes wide open. But if he handles that correctly, and again, that'll come with experience, if he stays where he should, stays a little more stationary, he's just got an easy pitch and catch with Javonte Barnes, and Oklahoma is at 14-14 rather than 14-10.
Rewatching the game, it's clear he misses some stuff like Josh is referring to. There's some stuff where, maybe he should have kept it on a read, or he should have, he missed a guy over the middle. I know there was one early in the game over the middle to Brennan Thompson that he just misses Brennan, breaking open. And some of that is, I think, him having to trust the offensive line a little bit, which we can get into the offensive line. I thought they played pretty good. It was definitely one of their best performances of the season. But I think for Hawkins, it's about getting the reps. I mean, like, it's one of those things that he's not going to get better unless he just continues to play. And I think the biggest thing for me, Josh, it never felt like the ball was ever in harm's way. And we said that for Jackson against Temple. We were like, man, he never put the ball in harm's way. It's one thing to do it against Temple at home. It's another thing to do it in this spot on the road against an Auburn defense that's pretty damn good. And so I thought that he missed some plays. That's going to happen. Maybe missed a couple throws. But, I mean, shoot, to start this game off like that, I think it says a lot about his
I think you would be lying if, and maybe I was the only one that thought this, but as he breaks away for the 48-yarder on the first offensive possession for Oklahoma, a little bit of that Caleb Williams vibe just in terms of OU Texas when he ran away from the defenders on his first series of the day coming in for Spencer Rattler. It was dynamic. And you said, I think, the third fastest player in college football over the weekend.
Yeah, I think he clocked in at like 22 miles per hour.
To beat the two safeties, basically to the point.
This is the best throw of the day, though.
Oh, this throw to
and it
Bauer
gets called
Sharp,
back, but
there was a couple of these plays that was like, if they could have just built on that and not had the penalties, which we'll get to the tight end situation, this was definitely a positive, though. That throw, a little sidearm around the defender's hand that was up at the line of scrimmage. Awesome throw.
I thought Teddy said it really well, and I agreed with it. He kind of looks like a baseball guy, and I think part of it is how quick his release is. Like, it's just boom and it's gone. There is that feeling of like a second baseman turning two. Like, I mean, and kind of like what you're mentioning, Eddie, where he's getting it around that arm. Like, I feel like he can change arm angles kind of naturally. I don't even know if he knows he's doing it. Like, I think it's just like, oh, this is where I've got to go to put that ball where it needs to be. But guys, I will say, and like you said, Eddie, we'll get into the tight end thing. I know that's a topic we all want to discuss, but guys, did he kind of unlock Bauer Sharp? Because I know Bauer Sharp didn't get credit for all the stuff he did in this game, but that's the receiving target everybody thought Oklahoma was going to have in Bauer Sharp. A big athletic guy, can make some plays over the middle, can really stress that second level at linebacker. If they can get that Bauer Sharp, that's, again, I can forgive the blocking if he can be that dynamic in the pass game.
I think you're right, Josh. He definitely,
and he's going to have to be, because I think that, we talked about this driving to Auburn Saturday morning. I think if for any other team in the country, and this is what you said, George, any other team in the country, if you would have said before the game that they're going to be starting a true freshman on the road Oh, by the way, he doesn't have his 5 top targets at the wide receiver position. How the hell were they going to win that game?
Yeah, and I think they're going to need a Bauer Sharp to step up in the passing game. I thought it was probably Bauer's best game at Oklahoma, and he even cleaned up some of the blocking issues. But it makes me wonder too, Josh. Like I said this to Eddie, is like if they can get Deion Burks back, can he unlock Deion Burks and some of the stuff over the middle? Like it just seems like Michael Hawkins is seeing the field pretty good. Again, he missed some guys, and that's going to happen. But I mean, J.J. Hester, we hadn't seen all year really.
Sure. And
all of a sudden, he's making these huge plays down the field. Brennan Thompson, another guy that we're like, just a couple of weeks ago, we're like, we've seen enough of Brennan Thompson, and he's out there making big plays. And I think that's a credit to the way that Michael Hawkins is seeing the field and just kind of operating the offense. Again, it's baby steps, right? Like this thing is still
100%
not good in a lot of ways, but it did feel like they opened up some stuff in that Michael was able to, whether it was with his legs or just reading defenses, was able to, I don't know, get the offense moving in the right direction at times. And they had some good drives in this game.
Sure. It was the injection or the catalyst or whatever you want to call it that this offense needed. It was the move that was needed. I don't think that there's any doubt about that. Obviously, the throw to J.J. Hester, as you see, terrible shot on my part. I lost the ball in the big screen, the biggest big screen in college football. But awesome throw. It was at the perfect time. Obviously, Oklahoma needed that, and I think that they won the game because of a play like that. That changed the momentum and the trajectory of the game. Obviously, the 2-point conversion. We're gonna want him to slide at points.
Not there, though.
Not there. He had to get in.
He had to get in. And that's the thing about him that we always talk about, the quote-unquote it factor.
That intangible that quarterback just has. We talked to Tatum McFarland about it before the game. It seems like Michael Hawkins, he has that something that you look for in a college football player, specifically at the quarterback position, that his other teammates just love. They love that he's out there. Yep. They've seen it. And we had that conversation on the Eskridge Lexus postgame show just in terms of what he brings to the offense, Josh. It just seems like there is an uptick when number 9's on the field.
I don't think there's any question, guys. Like, and I one of the things I noticed is so on that big hit we were talking about earlier when Riddick just clears him out on that scramble to the right, Branson Hickman's immediately over there like, you okay? Like, check, like just – it seems like there's a lot of accountability for him, like people like trying to protect him. This play, I mean, guys, I don't know how you play with a guy that's making plays like that and don't respect the hell out of him. Like, 100%. I mean, he didn't a lot. We know a lot of quarterbacks would have just kind of take the easy way and try to dive in, protect their body a little bit, and he put himself completely in harm's way there to try and make a play that obviously Oklahoma really needed. So, I again, there is something, and I don't think it's just the offense. I think the defense, there is something to this guy can make a play for us. This guy, it may not always be pretty. It's certainly not consistent, but if there's one guy at that position right now that you said, okay, OU's got to go out and they got to have a big play, there's no question I'm choosing Michael Hawkins in the conversation right now, guys. He is the one. What I believe what he's got in this game, he had Oklahoma's longest pass and longest runs of the season. Like himself did it. That's just unbelievable.
Incredible moment with his family, his dad right there on the right side, his mom obviously after the game. I asked Mike Jr. about this after the game, but I would imagine Mike Hawkins Sr. not much of a crier. No. And the man was in tears after the game. Really, really cool moment. Really special moment for the Hawkins family, obviously, and the win and everything that went with the fourth quarter there. Offensive line-wise, what'd you think of it? I think that if things were to stay the same, and obviously if Oklahoma has no more injuries on the offensive line, that's the 5, right, Josh? That's the 5 that we were expecting.
Yeah, and I think it has to be. And there's still – miles of room for improvement with this group. Like, I mean, like you're still not seeing a lot of push in the run game, but I thought you didn't see free rushers the way we'd seen the last couple of weeks. Like it seemed like and guys, maybe that's Michael Hawkins. Cause I thought he was so good about, okay, like walking up the line, making sure everybody's clear on what we're doing. And I thought it had the offensive line communicating more. I'm seeing more guys pointing out, okay, this is me, that's Mike, like whatever you need to do with your numbers count. But I thought they were really good about their communication. And, it's fair that that's got to happen on the road in a loud environment. Like that just has to happen. But when you come back to Norman or even in Dallas in a couple of weeks, there's no reason you can't continue that. Keep talking, like keep doing it until this group does have a better feel for each other and has played enough snaps together that they kind of know, okay, this is me, this is you. We know what we're looking at here, and everybody can kind of understand. But until that point, there's no reason to be quiet. Talk, like point, let everybody know what's going on. So I thought it was much better. I thought pass protection was pretty good, really. Like I didn't have a huge problem. And the run game, I thought as the game wore on, they started to find some things.
Definitely. I like I said earlier, I think it was the best performance that the offensive line has put together. I think Jake Taylor being out there really helps them. And look, he's dealing with some injuries and he gets beat a couple times. But boy, when you can put him at right tackle and Tarquin at left, who Tarquin's been, I think, maybe their best offensive lineman this year. And then you're able to put Sexton inside, which, again, I know we kind of all think that he's probably a tackle, but when you talk about how difficult that left guard position has been for Oklahoma, to have a guy like Jacob Sexton where you know what you're getting down to down, it's a huge help. And I think Branson Hickman played better this week. Again, he's still dealing with a little bit of that ankle sprain stuff, but it's clear he's communicating, getting the right calls in. At least it looked like this week. So, I mean, you got to feel better about it, and if they can, I would give those guys the week off this week. Do not go out there and start hitting this week. I mean, those guys have been battling to get back, and it's the healthiest they've been up front.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll keep an eye on somebody like a Michael Tarquin coming out of the Auburn game, obviously. You got 2 weeks. You got 12 days, basically, to get ready for OU Texas. Any surprise? I think that we were both a little surprised. No Troy Everett. Maybe he's just not ready to go, but he has suited up here the last 2 weeks.
I think part of that is he hasn't played, and they want some continuity up front. Like at this point, it's like
Sure.
I think that I'm sure Troy's a really good player, but and maybe we see him here as they try to work him in during the bye week. But at some point, you're like, we just got to play the 5 that we've been playing. Those guys, that was the 5 most of fall camp before some of these guys got hurt, and then it was the 5 at one point earlier in the season before Jake Taylor gets hurt. So I think that it's one of those things where it's like these guys have at least played together. Like, don't screw it up. And I think they went out there and played pretty well. So I still think we'll see Troy Everett at some point, either at guard or center. But I think that was probably the thinking is like, this was our group, all of fall camp. Let's roll with them in this game.
Josh, if I was to ask you what the state of the pass catchers in Norman is, obviously the wide receiver position is depleted. I mean, you don't have your top 5 guys. The tight end unit, Bauer Sharp, I know that we said that he kind of was unlocked. It's still not great. I think that's probably putting it pretty lightly. Where do they go from here? Obviously, that's going to be something that they're going to have to basically kind of cover up the rest of the season in terms of what they don't have at tight end and what they don't have at wide receiver.
Yeah, it's amazing how this story has turned, guys. And, the only thing offensively thought you could count on coming into the year was wide receiver. We knew that was going to be a really good group, maybe one of the better ones in the country. And then to just be, I called it, I mean, it's been biblical what's happened to that wide receiver room. Like that it feels like they've been smited. I don't know what Emmett Jones did to piss the world off, but it's been bad. Guys, like George touched on earlier, but if you get Deion Burks back, that gives you a whole new weapon. I think you've got to find a way, if Burks comes back, to get Burks and Petaway on the field at the same time. I think those are explosive guys that have shown you some ability to make plays. Probably the only 2 receivers that really have with consistency. I mean, J.J. Huster, okay, maybe you're starting to unlock something there. I thought Brennan Thompson had a couple of really nice plays in this game. I thought he fought through a couple of tough tackles and showed some I hate to repeat myself, but he showed some toughness. And I think that has been kind of the question of like, okay, he's great if he's running in space. But there was, and again, to go back to some of the stuff that showed up in the idiot, there was a play and Michael's breaking out to his left. Brendan Thompson's the only guy on the field, tight end, receiver, anybody that responds in the way you want to, and he works downfield. And if Michael Hawkins has even a split second to just set his feet and plant, it's probably a 60-yard touchdown because Brendan Thompson's got 3 steps on the corner. And if Michael can just put it out anywhere that Brendan Thompson can run to, nobody else is going to catch him. So, again, and I think that goes back to what we talked about, where I think it was Mike sees it, but you're like, I don't want to make that decision. I don't want to do something wrong and make a bad mistake here. So I think that was part of the plan, kind of. And I think those reins will loosen as they get more and more trust in him. But I think it can be better. Again, you get Deion Burks back, and if he can start really connecting with Michael Hawkins, obviously he's a big-time playmaker. And again, if the tight ends will just stop making foolish mistakes, there's plays to be made here. I mean, again, Bauer Sharp, guys, I think if that one pass is an actual completion, I believe he has close to 100 yards on the day. Yep. He had a really solid day. And Jake Roberts just has to acknowledge there's a difference between not trying to catch a pass and looking like you're not trying to catch a pass. Like they are 2 different things.
5 of Oklahoma's 10 penalties on Saturday come to the tight end position. And it wasn't just that they were half of them. It seemed like all 5 of them were drastic, somewhat game-changing type plays that were wiped off the board.
Wiped off the Javonte Barnes touchdown, which, Josh, I don't know if you want to talk about that one because I know you mentioned that you thought it was maybe a bad call. But they also maybe missed another one.
Yeah, this is normally like one I would have been like, Jake Roberts, it happens, it's fine. I mean, it's not, but like you can kind of look the other way on it. But on the touchdown to Javonte Barnes, or I guess the would have been touchdown, they called Bauer Sharp for illegal motion. I don't believe that, or Ford, I can't remember what it was, but it was something along. I think it was illegal motion. So you go back and look at it, and I'm doing it frame by frame on the idiot. The ball moves, and if you want to say that Bauer Sharp is leaning forward, okay, I guess. But, there's no motion upfield. There's nothing as the ball's moving. So I don't know what they're looking at there. But as you go forward and watch the play, Jake Roberts is 3 yards deep in the end zone, which is 5 yards beyond the line of scrimmage, and he's blocking. I mean, arms extended blocking. So sure, that maybe should have been a touchdown as it pertains to the Bauer Sharp call, but in the karma of football, it probably shouldn't have been a touchdown because Jake Roberts was blocking the guy who should have been covering Javonte Barnes.
It's incredible the way that we talk about this game and the way that we talk about this weekend. Obviously, post-win, it would be very different had they not had the heroics of the fourth quarter.
I mean, it saved their season.
It did, and that was kind of my next question as we close out the Game Day Rewind today, just in terms of where they go from here. They're at 4-1. I think that a lot of us talked about at the beginning of the season, if you got through the first 5 and you walked into the Cotton Bowl at 4-1, things had gone pretty well. I think anybody that has watched us on the YouTube channel or listened to the Unofficial 40 or just watched OU football in general would say 4-1's probably masked over a lot of things just in terms of what the record is with the way that they played, especially offensively. It has to be, though, a galvanizing moment. The way that you won, sticking through it. We talked about the culture and everything that gets them to that point to not give up and find a way to win. Where do they go from here? It's going to be super interesting. Obviously, the schedule coming out of the bye week, better get ready. They're coming.
Yeah, it's going to be really tough, and Texas is one of those games that, Oklahoma's going to be up for it. Texas is really, really good. How tested have they really been? I don't know. I think Michigan is a good football team, not a great football team. And they might not even be good either. I think they're above average. But other than that, you don't know what to expect. Who's going to play at quarterback? I'm guessing it'll be Quinn Ewers. It sounds like that's the indication. But I wouldn't be shocked if we also saw some Arch Manning in this game, the way that he's been playing for them. But I think for Oklahoma, the bye week comes at the perfect time because you can give that defense some rest. You can maybe get some guys healthy on offense. And even if you can't, I think it gives this offensive staff some time to say, okay, we got a new quarterback in there. We have some different personnel. What can we do to find some success? And maybe they can put in some different stuff. I thought we were going to see more zone read, speed option stuff from Oklahoma. I think maybe that was too quick of a turnaround to install some of that. I wonder if this week during the bye week they start putting in some stuff like that. So, again, you go into this game where if they go beat Texas, which, again, I'm not picking them to beat Texas. I'm definitely not.
Yet.
No, I'm not doing it. But let's say they somehow win that game, which is a crazy game. We all know how it goes. All of a sudden, everything's in front of you,
sure.
Right? And so you look at that back half of the schedule, and it's really tough. But I think that when you look at the bye week, the injuries, everything that's going on with Oklahoma, going into it with a 4-1 record, and the way that you won that game, I think you can take some of that momentum and carry it into this week and next week.
Josh, can this win be bigger than, I think what a lot of people over at the Switzer Center will say is every game matters. Every game's just as big. It's the biggest game of the week. It seemed like the way that went down in the fourth quarter and just kind of the way that the season was kind of flipped, it can be something bigger than just a win on the road at Auburn.
Guys, there's a part of me, and I think I tweeted something about it on Saturday night, or in fact, I know I did. This could be staff defining. That felt like the vibes coming out of Tennessee, all the stuff we were hearing, obviously the quarterback change and what a dramatic turn that was from where we expected things to be, following the Alamo Bowl and how last year ended and all those things. It was like, oh man, vibes are not good. This feels bad. Something feels wrong here. And for Oklahoma to find a way to that win, again, I think it buys everybody a little breathing room, a little time. Guys, I know at times we've been critical of some of the game management stuff. I thought Oklahoma did a good job with that. I thought they managed that really well. I liked the attempted fake on the field goal, the initial, just trying something. There's no, what is it going to hurt? The clock stopped anyways. You can call a timeout. You can go through the whole thing. I know some people were kind of upset about that. I thought it was a chance worth taking, I guess would be the way to say it. So I kind of like that idea. But I do. I think this could be something that even goes beyond this year, because there was a point before the game where I kind of was like, if they lose this game, we may look back on this as the beginning of the end. This may start trending in the really wrong direction, because again, I would pick Texas against Oklahoma right now. You come out of Texas 3-3 and still have what you have on your slate, guys, you're going to be fighting to make a bowl. That gets real tricky real fast. And with all the injuries, are guys suddenly not in that big a hurry to come back because it's just not going well? The vibes only get worse. And so to have a win, not just a win, but a win in that way and the way they closed that game out. And guys, we also know how bad they were on the road last year.
Sure.
To have this happen in this moment and the way they fought through it when they didn't have their fastball, there's a lot you can take out of that game and be excited. At the same time, you had 11 first downs. You had less than 300 yards. There's still big red flags, but there are things you can buy into and say, hey, maybe this progresses.
Needless to say, it was a starting point.
Yeah, and I think again, it's you got to also say that Auburn handed them this football game, right? That's needless to say. It's one of those things that Auburn really crapped down their leg in a lot of ways in that game, but it's a credit to Oklahoma not giving up, making the plays that needed to be made. And like Josh said, that could be that win, honestly, could be the difference between making a bowl game or not this year. And again, maybe they go on and they win 8-9 games. That'd be amazing. But I do think it gives this team some confidence going into the bye week and heading into what is the biggest game of the year.
Biggest game of the year coming up in about a week and a half's time. Oklahoma improves to 4-1, obviously with the 27-21 victory on Saturday at Auburn. Make sure you check out the Sights and Sounds that is up here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel, as well as all of the post-game goodies from Auburn, the instant reaction with George and myself, and everything to come. Full week still. It's a bye week, but there is still a full week. As we said at the top, we'll be talking to some of the players on Wednesday, kind of get their thoughts. They're a couple days removed from the big win on Saturday, as well as the recruiting report coming up on Tuesday with Denton Geyer and some of the Oklahoma commits down there in the DFW area. So for Josh and George. I'm Eddie. We'll see you right back here on Tuesday for the recruiting report here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel.